Steinberg's premier VST workstation, HALion Sonic, brings the concept of all-in-one workstations to the virtual world. With a massive sample content library and powerful synthesizer engines, HALion Sonic will satisfy the most demanding producer or composer. With its easy-to-use interface and flexible workflow, HALion Sonic is the perfect companion in the studio and on stage. Now we're going to briefly cover the different sections of HALion Sonic. The plugin function section at the top has quick access controls for volume, panning, and tuning. On the far right of this section, you can see how hard your computer is working, including CPU usage, disk performance, number of voices being generated, and the amount of memory being used. On the left, we have the multi-program rack, where you can select up to 16 programs for stacked or multi-channel use. The main area, or edit display, allows you to see many different pages of HALion Sonic. You can choose these pages by clicking on the menu tabs at the top. At the bottom, we have our performance section, with the keyboard, pitch and modulation wheels, the incredibly fun trigger pads, the quick controls for expressive performance, and finally, the sphere. The sphere is used for controlling two parameters at the same time. Usually, this is assigned to cutoff and resonance. Now that we've got the basics covered, let's keep moving. To clear a multi-program rack, click on the trash can icon and select Remove. Use the library selector to choose an instrument library. Double-click on a program and you're ready to go. When selecting a program, there's two different ways to select a sound. If you click to the right of the program name in the rack, you can select an instrument and a program in a brand new floating window. This saves you from having to change your editor view every time you want to load a new program. If you're using this method, please make sure you have Keep Dialog Open checked so that you can audition various programs. If you don't have this selected, the floating window will close as soon as you've made a selection. If you prefer to work in the same page, under the Load menu, select All Instruments from the Library selector. From there, you can choose sounds from any instrument in the HALion Sonic library. Use the category filters to filter down your choice from HALion Sonic 2's incredible selection of over 2,500 high-class instrument programs. To remove a category filter, just click on the selected attribute again, or to remove all of the filters, click on the Reset button. With this intuitive interface, you can fill up a rack with 16 instruments on 16 different MIDI channels in no time. If you really love a particular instrument program, give it a higher rating so that it will show up more easily in your searches. You can also modify any of the attributes for the program to suit your needs. Just look at all of the character attributes you can apply to just one sound. If you take the time to apply attributes correctly, finding a sound later on will be much easier. Now we're going to take a look at some simple editing features in HALion Sonic 2. Under the Edit menu, select the Program view. Programs are combinations of up to 4 layers. HALion Sonic provides 5 different layer types. You can choose between synth, sample, instrument, drums, and sliced loop layers. Each layer type is based on an individual sound architecture and has a dedicated editor. Under the individual layers, we see that the user interface is different depending on what type of instruments we have selected. The new instruments like Model C or Auron have their own macro. For synth and sample layers, you get access to a synthesizer editor with components such as a highly flexible filter section, powerful multi-stage envelopes, LFOs, a step modulator, and a modulation matrix. The drum layers load a multi-sample drum set where you can individually adjust the most important parameters for each drum instrument. Loop layers load a sliced loop, which is a combination of a loop-specific MIDI phrase and the individual slices mapped across the keyboard. Instrument layers contain several multi-samples of an instrument that can be parts of single sounds or different articulations. You can switch between the different articulations using the key switches on your keyboard. But that's not all. The icing on the cake is the integrated flex phraser. A flex phraser is kind of like a cross between an arpeggiator and auto accompaniment. It can be as simple as a drum beater classic arpeggiator and can be as complex as a rhythm section accompanying your every move. In HALion Sonic 2, you can not only choose from the huge list of arpeggiators, but modify them to suit your needs. I'm going to use the flex phraser in voltage for this example. To begin editing, activate the flex phraser and choose one of the many available phrases from the folder tree. Now play the sound on your keyboard to hear the phrase. You can load up to 8 of your favorite phrase variations. If you have a phrase you really like, you can export that phrase as a MIDI file for later use. Just click Record, play the phrase the way you want, and click Record again to stop. You can now drag your new MIDI file directly into Cubase or right to the desktop for later use. With HALion Sonic 2, the new user phrase editor is introduced that allows you to create and modify your own arpeggiators and patterns. The user pattern of the flex phraser has up to 32 steps, and each step has an adjustable velocity, gate length, and transpose value. For more on the flex phrasers, check out the videos on the new synth and world instruments. To briefly cover the rest of the editing features, I'll give you a quick glance at what's available. Under the Edit menu, the controls are unique to each instrument, depending on how it's set up. There's also an Insert section for each program that allows you to put up to 4 effects on each layer, plus 4 on the whole program. Now typically, you would assign effects like EQ or distortion to the separate layers, and effects like delay or reverb to the whole program. Under the MIDI menu, you can transpose the programs and set up different key ranges in which the sound will appear. This can be useful if you want to create a keyboard split between, let's say, a piano and a bass. You can also set up individual velocity windows for each program so that the sound will only appear when a certain velocity range is played. This can be useful for creating very dramatic and dynamic sounds. Under the Mix menu, you can set individual program panning, volume, and send effects. You can even choose the individual output for each program in Cubase's mixer. But don't forget to activate the multi-outs in the instrument rack in Cubase when routing to multiple outputs. Under the Effects menu, you can choose up to 4 effects for each effect send. To edit an effect, just click on the respective edit buttons and tweak away in the interface below. There's even a main effects section and output routing for the auxiliary effects. The new version of HALion Sonic has 9 new pristine effects to choose from to complement the existing stellar effects collection. So now there are more than 50 effects available in HALion Sonic to enhance your sound. You can build your own live set list in this handy multi-menu and control how your computer behaves in the Options menu. From here, you can favor the balance between your computer's available RAM and hard disk capabilities and limit the amount of voices and CPU power HALion Sonic can use. This can be useful if you're using an older computer and need to limit the power that HALion Sonic can draw from your system. By setting the oscillators in eco mode, you can also save processing power, but it comes at the expense of subtle aliasing sounds in higher frequencies. Before we jump on to the last subject, which is the quick controls and trigger pads, we have to cover a few quick tips that will help you get around HALion Sonic 2. Under the global settings, there are 2 types of tooltips that can help you navigate your way. If you choose to show tooltips, a brief explanation will appear under whatever you are hovering over. Leave this setting on until you are sure you can navigate HALion Sonic without it. Likewise, if you choose to show value tooltips, you can see precisely what level you have a particular control set at. The remaining controls to the right of the menu selectors can help you if you need to quickly turn off any insert effects, auxiliary effects, and flex phrasers. You can also lock the phraser and trigger pads and undo any changes you've made by clicking the Undo button or selecting how many steps you want to undo from the drop-down menu. You can also redo any steps that you've undone, reset any stuck MIDI notes, and switch between the editor and player view for your convenience. Last but not least, in our quick start video, we're going to take a look at the trigger pads and the quick controls. These features are a ton of fun to use when you take proper advantage of them, so let's get started. Under the Load menu and the Library selector, choose All Instrument Sets. Type the word strawberry in the search window. This will filter down our selection based on what we typed. Double-click on Strawberry Flutes, a beautiful preset of the new HALion. If you wish to clear the search, click the Reset button. I chose Strawberry Flutes because it has a ready-made chord progression in the trigger pads. Pretty cool. Reminds me of something. But there's more. You can right-click on a trigger pad and assign what note on your keyboard or pad controller will activate the pad. Select Learn Trigger Note. Play a key on your keyboard, and you've already mapped the trigger key, which you can now see is highlighted in blue. But what if you want to build your own chord progression? Just right-click on a pad and choose Snapshot Chord. Play your desired chord. Now click on the pad, and it's now saved in the trigger pad. Since I played a major C chord, I'm going to change the name of the pad by right-clicking on it and selecting Rename Pad. Finally, we have the quick controls. These controls are different for every program and affect the most appropriate or relevant performance controls for your program. It's important to note that there are quick controls available for both the program and the individual layers in the program. To automate a quick control, right-click on it and select Learn CC. Turn a knob or fader on your favorite controller and voila! Instant real-time control. From here, you can rename the quick control and even reveal an automation lane in Cubase for the quick control. If you want to edit the quick control at the source, just right-click and select Edit Quick Control, and HALion Sonic will take you to the appropriate editor. From here, we can edit any of the quick controls with speed and ease. And that brings our Quick Start video tutorial to a close. You now have a basic fundamental knowledge of this incredible instrument and what you can accomplish with it. So now you can get making music with HALion Sonic 2's incredible collection of over 2,500 sounds, created by the top sound design experts at both Yamaha and Steinberg. Get creative with HALion Sonic 2 today and start realizing your sonic potential.